Hello, you are listening to the Natural Healing Show for UK Health Radio. I'm your host, Catherine Carrigan, medical intuitive healer, Amazon #1 bestselling author. You can find out more about me and my work at catherinecarrigan.com and unlimitedenergynow.com. While you're there, definitely sign up for my newsletter so you can learn even more about how you can heal yourself naturally. Now, our guest today is Jason Hunt. Jason Hunt describes himself as a meditation teacher, but we're going to hear from him in a moment because there's a lot that he does. And you can find out more about Jason Hunt and his wonderful work at his website, waterprana.net. Welcome, Jason Hunt.
Thank you, Catherine. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Now, Jason Hunt, you describe yourself as a meditation teacher, but like many of us in natural healing, there's a lot to what you do. Can you tell for our audience all of the different things that you do?
I'm not sure that I can cover it all, but I'll do my best. I do other classes as well. The main thing that I do is a 4-day meditation class. That's pretty much why I say I'm a meditation teacher. That's really my purpose on being in this lifetime here. But I also, to supplement that, do crystal classes, shungite classes. If you've heard of shungite, it's a marvelous remedy for many of the ailments that we have these days. Enneagram classes, I do astrology, I do house gridding and personal gridding and helping people just find, I guess you would call it consultations. We'll get into this a little bit more, but the meditation that I do is, it's, as you are about to mention, it's based on the Merkaba, and it has to do with bringing our mental, emotional, and physical bodies together. So it's a lot of what I do is that integration work, and that's where we get into the side branches, so to speak, more than meditation. Does that explain it?
Thank you for sharing. Now, Jason Hunt, meditation teacher, what exactly is the Merkaba?
Well, the Merkaba is, I'm going to give you a broad definition first, and then I'll narrow it down a bit. The Merkaba is, simply put, it's the human light body, but it's much more than that. It is the light body, the electromagnetic field that's found around every living being. So plants, animals, Mother Earth herself, our sun, our galaxy, and all the way down into the microscopic and even subatomic levels. The Merkaba is present there. So that's the wide ranging. The Merkaba, let's break down the word. Let's take the word itself. Merkaba is 3 words in Egyptian, ancient Egyptian. And these words, mer means light, but it's a counter-rotating field of light. So it's spinning one way, but it's also spinning the opposite direction. Ka means spirit, and ba means body or way of perceiving the reality. So a Merkaba, by the Egyptian way of thinking, is a light field that carries the spirit and body through dimensional levels. There are 3 things that the Merkaba does for us as human beings. It provides us with absolute protection, absolute communication, meaning we can communicate on all levels of life, and absolute translation. Not translation in the communicative sense or language sense. It's translating through levels of reality. So many of us have seen or heard about UFOs. UFOs are actually based on Merkaba technology, and they are a time-space vehicle that you get into and move through those dimensional levels. Because they're a physical object, they're very limited. Whereas your Merkaba, or a human Merkaba, based on love and light and the understanding that we have and centered on our physical body, has no limitations whatsoever. This is what I say, absolute translation. So absolute communication, absolute protection, and absolute translation through all the dimensional levels.
That's fantastic. Now, before we started recording, you and I were sharing some diagrams of this, and I was showing you this, And
Yes,
for those who can't see, will you describe in words what this is and show us your objects?
absolutely. Yes. What Catherine is holding up is a star tetrahedron or a double tetrahedron. And it's a platonic solid that is, and these are mine, that is centered on our spine and is a field that goes around our body. So this is a larger one. And this is, if if this were around a human body, this point terminates one hand's length above your head, and this one hand's length below your feet. So most of the time, this point is in the floor or in the ground. If you sit down, like I'm sitting on the ground right now, this actually goes into the earth. So this is right about the equator, so to speak, the halfway level. So half of your Merkaba field would be in the earth and half of it would be above the earth. Now, this is because I'm a teacher, this I have to be real specific. This is a star tetrahedron or a double tetrahedron. It takes at least two of these, again, counter rotating, one of them spinning this way, one of them spinning this way, to make a Merkaba. We have three of these systems around our body. So we have an emotional body that spins one way, a mental body that spins another way, and a physical body that's more or less stationary. It can turn under certain circumstances. So we have these three fields. And again, these rotating ones have to be rotating at a certain speed to pop out the Merkaba, to activate the Merkaba. The Merkaba, it looks very much like a UFO or like the heat envelope of the galaxy that we've seen. And it's amazing how similar those two shapes are, again, because UFOs are based on Merkaba technology. So when we get these fields spinning around our body, that's when we activate our Merkaba.
Okay, so this star tetrahedron has been on my desk for, I'm guessing, maybe 5 years. So I keep it on my desk, right?
Yes.
And so what you're saying is the Merkaba is every human being has 3 of these around us, right?
Correct.
So Jason Hunt, what does the Merkaba mean?
Well, once again, it is the light body. It allows us to move through different dimensional levels. Perhaps, well, I know that a lot of folks have seen a lot of chaos going on in the world these days. We're moving between levels here. I'm not sure if you are familiar with cymatics, where they take like a drum head or a plate, and they'll put a sound through it, a sound generator, a wave generator through it. And they'll put iron filings or sawdust or something on there, and the plate will vibrate or the drum head will vibrate and create a certain geometry. And then when you change the tone and change the sound, everything jumbles around and moves into another geometry, a different geometry. We're in that jumbling place. There are, as far as I'm concerned right now on planet Earth, there's one order, which we would normally call 3D, and is connected to a grid that's around the planet, 3D consciousness, also known as polarity consciousness or separative consciousness. Anywhere there's two-ness, there's actually three-ness, but we'll get back to that later. And there's also another grid that is the fourth dimensional grid, which is a unity consciousness grid, or sometimes it's called a Christ consciousness grid. It is a place of unity consciousness, not this apparent duality or polarity that we're usually in. So for our purposes on planet Earth, Mother Earth's field is one of these. And we are using this Merkaba, this star tetrahedral field, to move with Mother Earth from this level of consciousness to the next level of consciousness.
I'm very impressed with your excellent interpretations and explanations. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Now, Jason Hunt, meditation teacher, people talk about activating our Merkaba.
Yes.
What does it mean to activate your Merkaba?
Well, there's a lot of information out there about this. The way that we do it in this class is it's coming from Drunvalo Melchizedek's work, and he was the author of The Flower of Life Ancient Secret of the Flower of Life, volumes 1 and 2.
Can you, for Ardent, can you please repeat his name? I'm not sure I heard that clearly.
Yes, Drunvalo Melchizedek. And Melchizedek is, it's found, the word is found in the Bible. It's a Hebrew word, but it's a level of consciousness, basically. So Drunvalo is a walk-in, and he was the first one that brought this information to the public, basically, back in the 1980s. And I'm sorry, where were we going with that?
Okay, so what does it mean to activate our Merkaba?
Yes. So the way that we do it, it is activated automatically at the end of the 4-day workshop. It happens very easily, focusing on a few aspects of consciousness. The way that it's written in the books from 20 years ago and the way that I did it originally back in the 1990s is a 17 breath method. There are a lot of other people out there who are saying you can put stones around a person. Sometimes it's a certain kind of stone, sometimes it's a certain configuration of stones, and that will activate your Merkaba. We're getting to the point, because there's so many what I would call higher dimensional beings, star children, especially on the planet, that the higher dimensional beings are activating it almost osmotically. They're just saying, wow, it feels good to breathe like this, and they're doing that. So once again, there are a lot of different ways of doing this. There's not just one way, but I stick with what works. And this, I've been teaching this for almost 12 years now. Drunvalo's been teaching it, like I said, since the 80s. And this is tried and true. And very, very few people come through my class. I've had upwards of 500 people at this point, and don't activate their Merkaba. If they do, great. If they don't, great. It's really up to them and God. It's a very, very personal relationship between you and Great Spirit or Source, whatever you want to call that.
Now, what are the benefits of activating our Merkaba? Why would a person want to activate your Merkaba?
Well, again, the benefits are myriad. Everybody is doing something different here. So everybody's going to find different benefits. But some of the general ones are, it will accelerate your spiritual path for sure. It's like asking to be of service, and Mother Earth and Father Sky will put you to work, like immediately, like today. So also those three things, it provides absolute protection, absolute communication, absolute translation. I use those first two a lot. The protection, nobody, when you're sitting in your Merkaba field, nobody, not even Lucifer, can enter your Merkaba field. Not the big baddies, not even Michael, unless you give him permission, because this is your sovereign field.
And you're referring to Archangel Michael.
Archangel Michael and Archangel Lucifer, yes. They're brothers, and they're working together. But again, that doesn't necessarily look like that from a polarity point of view. But again, the Merkaba, absolute protection. So, for instance, if I get sick, I look at what I'm doing mentally, emotionally, and physically. Sometimes it's not anything that I'm doing. So, somebody's projecting something. So it helps one get clear with that. Sometimes it is my stuff. And if it's my stuff, then it helps me work on it. It helps me. What I found about healing, which we'll talk about in a little bit, is that our Merkaba greatly accelerates this process also.
So why would a person want to activate their Merkaba?
Well, once again, to accelerate their spiritual path, to find absolute protection. And I've communicated, not, a lot of people talk with the trees and the plants and stuff, but I've communicated with different species of ants. In inner Earth terrestrials, there's beings that live inside Mother Earth in crystals. I've communicated with Mother Earth, Father Son. It opens up a whole realm, literally the spiritual realm, the unseen realm of what is out there. So to go back to electromagnetic fields, what we see as light and what we take in as the visual stimuli from the outside universe, we put 90% of our reality is this visual stimulation. But what we're seeing visually is less than 1% of the entire electromagnetic spectrum of what's out there. Well, light with a capital L. So simply put, your Merkaba will open up these realms to you. In fact, I would say just by having that star tetrahedron on your desk there, it's going to help you resonate, yes, into knowing that. So there's a lot of confusion. There's a lot of information on the spiritual path here. One of the things that the Merkaba does is it brings those into alignment, clears out the confusion, and instead of believing about things or thinking about things, one has a knowing. This is, again, due to the acceleration of growth, spiritual growth. When a person first starts on the spiritual path, this spiritual growth is many, many times forcing, not maybe forcing us, but asking us to look at our first three chakras. And that's where the work starts. And it might not feel like spiritual work. It might feel like you're totally off the path and what's my Merkaba got to do with this? But it has everything to do with it. So in the beginning, once again, it's about clearing out, purifying, to have a space for God to live within you, so to speak. Another translation, the Hebrews say Merkaba with the B-A-H or V-A-H on the end. And their translation of it is either chariot of God or throne of God. And both are applicable in this case.
Great information. And with that, let's take a break and listen to a message from one of our commercial sponsors here at UK Health Radio. I'm your host, Catherine Carrigan, medical intuitive healer. We're listening to Jason Hunt, meditation teacher, explain to us what is our Merkaba and why we might want to activate it. We'll be right back. So Jason Hunt, meditation teacher. So a synonym, therefore, for the Merkaba is our human light body, right?
Correct. Yes.
Yes. And I know that as human beings, we have a pain body, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm a medical intuitive healer. So I think I read some article the other day about, what percent of the population wakes up in pain every single day, right? And
Yes.
every day I go to work, I help somebody get out of pain. Well, part of that is physical, and part of that is unresolved mental emotional. So all of us have a pain body, and a good explanation of our pain body is your integrated aspect of your ego, right? It's all the stuff you haven't resolved, which
Correct.
for a lot of us can be a lot.
Be a pile. Yep.
It can be a pile. But at the same time, we have a light body, which is what Jason Hunt is talking about with the Merkaba. And through your meditation techniques, you help people to awaken their light body. What does it mean to activate or awaken our light body, our Merkaba?
Well, there will be, when one awakens their light body, again, there's usually a call to service. That's a service towards the outer reality, Mother Earth and Father Sky and all of humanity.
Mm-hmm.
There's also the inner aspects, and there is how do I say this? There's at least 3 stages of growth. There's moving towards God, or source or great spirit, whatever words you want to use. And there's moving with God, and then there's moving in God. So again, accelerating those stages of growth, so to speak, would is one of the great purposes of the Merkaba. We have just about every human being on the planet, unless they've cut off their emotional body, which is the case with a few people here. We have a Merkaba, and it's just latent. It's how we got in here when we were little babies, and it's how we usually get out when we're dying. But we've been doing it for about 13,000 years, give or take, unconsciously, less than consciously. So it's about doing it consciously this time. The Merkaba is essential for ascension. Ascension has become a byword these days. A lot of people, again, we're looking around at the outer reality, and there's a lot of chaos going on, and we're looking for solutions. There are, as far as I'm concerned, there's 3 different ways that we can leave this reality at this point, this physical reality, this 3D reality. We can either die, like we have been for the last 13,000 years, largely unconsciously, or we can resurrect. And Jesus Christ, from the Bible, he was an expert of that. That's why he came here to show us that. He's not the only one that's resurrected. In fact, there's been records of Hindu masters who have resurrected just in the last 100 years, appeared in different spots at the same time to their disciples after they physically left their body. Now, ascension is different from resurrection in that you take your body with you and you move through the death process with your eyes open. So there is a death process. If we look around at the outer reality, we can see that going on, but there's also simultaneously a birth process that's going on. And we really recommend that you focus on the birth process, which includes birthing yourself. So like you were speaking about the pain body, I've heard the Tibetans call it the karmic conceptual pain body. It's getting real specific about it and saying, it's largely linked to our mind and emotions. So moving through what the Sufis would call our false ego and getting towards our true self, our true ego, which again, I would say is that moving with God stage, that 3rd stage of unity, so to speak.
Great explanation. And now, how does this happen? You mentioned that you use a 17 breath method. What is the 17 breath method?
We used to use that 20 years ago, 25 years ago even. We've upgraded it to something that's different. You can still use that 17 breath method. It only takes about 4.5 minutes. It's got different mudras and visualizations, but the way that we're doing it now is much, much easier. One of the difficulties that I had with the 17 breath method, you have to do it every day for about 2.5 to 3 years before it becomes permanent. And if you miss, 2 or 3 days, you have to start that 2.5 to 3 years over. So it takes a certain amount of discipline just to get it so it's permanent. On the way that we're doing it now, after the 4-day workshop, in fact, on the 4th day, the Merkaba will activate permanently. And it's so much easier. Again, my teacher, Drunvalo Melchizedek, has likened it to the 17 breath method is like driving a Mack truck through about 3 feet of mud. You can do it, and it's got the power and it'll do it. But the new method is like, it's like you push a button and you start up your UFO, almost your spaceship, and go huge. It's a world of difference. World of difference.
I love the sound effects there. And I just have to back up now for our audience because and talk about chaos theory. Okay. So there was a gentleman named Ilya Prigogine, because it's so easy, especially I think if you're younger. I'm 65. So, when you get older, you're like, okay, you have a little bit of patience or a little bit of perspective.
Yes.
So chaos theory. What is chaos theory? Ilya Prigogine won the Nobel Prize for this. So basically, in order to move to a higher level, you have to go into chaos. So, and it's helpful for us to remember that even intellectually, because sometimes you look out into the world and you see, you know, what's happening in 3D reality that you're talking about, and you go, oh my goodness, what a train wreck, right?
Yes.
You know, and even when I'm doing my medical intuitive reading, sometimes, you know, it looks like a train wreck on one level, right?
Hmm.
But on another level, it's your soul calling forth transformation, right?
Exactly.
And so if you're listening and you're scared or you're alarmed or you're worried, just remember that in order to reorganize at a higher level, you know, all systems have to go into a state of chaos. And a really good visual of this, if you know any teenagers, or maybe you're a teenager, and if you think about the average room of a teenager, it looks like a bomb went off. You know, you open the door, you're like, oh my goodness, you want to shut the door. But and again, it's so easy, you know, if you're a parent or even if you're a teenager and go, oh my goodness, how am I gonna, you know, deal with all this mess? Well, it's you're reorganizing at a higher level. So don't be scared, don't be alarmed. And the more chaos you're going through, that is a sign that you are reorganizing at a higher level.
Yes, absolutely. I fully agree with what you're saying. And I'll piggyback and add to it. My Sufi teacher, who was very cognizant of Ilya Prigogine and his work, said that it's the breakdown before the breakthrough. It's the revolution before the evolution. And again, this happens externally, but it also happens internally. There's two processes that I've seen going on here with the movement of the earth, basically what I call the ascension of the earth. There's the collective, but then there's also individuals. So the individual, we are, we're kind of going off like popcorn, you know, like when popcorn first starts popping. But pretty soon, I mean, Catherine, you saw the Northern Lights the other day, right? It was about a week ago or so now.
Mhm.
That was a worldwide event that just brought everybody's attention to the same thing at the same time. Wow. I mean, when everybody's attention moves in the same direction at the same time, that's what I call magic. That's when you know something's really happening on the planet. So it is to recognize that there is chaos and then to come back to your own self, your own connection, and to, so to speak, keep calm and keep moving through it.
Wonderful information. And with that, let's take another break and listen to another message from one of our commercial sponsors here at UK Health Radio. I'm your host, Catherine Carrigan, medical intuitive healer, and we're listening to Jason Hunt, meditation teacher, explaining to us about what is our Merkaba and how to activate it. So Jason Hunt, here we are at the Natural Healing Show for UK Health Radio. And many of our audience are spiritual people, they're healers, they're people working in the field of natural healing. And they may have been doing decades of inner growth. How do we know if our Merkaba is actually awakened, if we have awakened our human light body?
Well, uh, the first thing that comes to mind is as within, so without. Most of us have heard the as above, so below. The other part of that is as within, so without, so as to make possible the miracle of a single thing. So when we have that connection, when our Merkaba is real, our outer reality will start shifting. the first shifts you'll notice are probably going to be on your inner reality. And it kind of will almost trickle out or precipitate out into the outer reality. During the workshop that we provide, on the fourth day when we activate our Merkabas, there are specific exercises. People will raise their hand and say, Jason, I think I did, but I'm not sure. Can you check me? And again, certain exercises that show everybody and really prove it to their brains, because it's our brains that question, our hearts know that their Merkaba is activated. Uh, Ultimately, this is a process between you and spirit, great spirit. So, you can lie to all the outer people. Oh, yes, my Merkaba is activated, but you can't lie to God. You can't even lie to yourself, but you can't lie to God. So eventually it will show. It will, like I said, sort of precipitate out into your outer reality. And you will know without a doubt that your Merkaba is activated. There's another aspect of this that we go into in the meditation class of connecting to your higher self. A lot of people will, again, ask me, Jason, how do I know that I've connected to my higher self? It's the same sort of thing. You ask great spirit or your higher self, whichever the case may be, for proof. Great spirit and our higher selves know that we're human beings and we're down in this dense level, and it's not always easy down here. Um, and they will provide proof. It's, again, proof largely for our brains, and I would say even our left brain mostly. Our right brain intuits that there's oneness and there's one spirit that moves through everything. We get that. The left brain goes, there's Catherine over there and there's Jason over here. And, all that duality starts coming in. So one of the things that it's a suggested prerequisite is to read Drew Vlot's books, The Ancient Secret of the Flower of Life, volumes 1 and 2. Those books are designed to show the left brain, especially, that there's one spirit that moves through everything. It is shown in the symbol of the flower of life, but it's usually just so simple and so right out front that our brains don't understand it. It has to be sort of decoded and unpacked, so to speak. But really, there is oneness, and it's just showing it to our brain. So ask for proof. And whether it's your higher self or great spirit with your Merkaba, you will be shown whether you've activated it or not.
Great explanation. Now, I know that when I do medical intuitive readings, there's a little procedure that I go through called source connection. And the intention is to connect every part of me to God. And it takes me maybe 30 seconds if I'm slow, right? And I just check all the levels. But when I'm totally connected, and I'm also a yoga teacher, the best analogy is when you're in a balance pose. And balance is never really easy. It gets easier, but you're just in a state of grace. There's an ease about it. Like there's not a gripping, there's no gripping, there's no efforting. It's like you feel open, you feel connected, and there's ease. So Jason Hunt, when we actually activate our Merkaba light body, do we feel different?
Well, again, because spirit's doing all possibilities here, some people do. Some people, it is so gentle and subtle that they feel like something went on, but it was just, they were expecting fireworks or, that sort of thing. So this is, again, is where the questioning comes in. And I can't tell you how it's going to feel. I can't tell you how you will prove it to yourself or what experiences that you'll have. I can give you generalizations, but because everybody's doing it differently here. Spirit, when we created this world, spirit as us said, do all possibilities. So we're doing that. And again, I can give you generalizations of what usually happens, and there will always be exceptions.
So what usually happens? How do people usually feel?
Usually they become like just briefly, because it is the light body of human beings, they feel much more energized. they can identify with themselves as an energy being rather than a physical being. That's a huge, huge shift. Um, Once again, when we're moving out into the world, just being light rather than being solid, or being energy rather than being solid, is huge. It's huge for healing. It's huge for self-care. It's huge for interactions. Uh, for instance, and we'll probably get into this in some more questions about healing, but if you are looking at the world as energy, and you are in your Merkaba and you're feeling your light body and feeling this flow of energy through your body, which is chi, prana, whatever you want to call it, life force energy. Um, there's, how do I say it? Let me come at it from a different point of view, from a different angle. Some people become breatharian. Some people see that they don't need to eat solid food anymore, or that they can change their diet. Some people change their jobs. Some people change their relationships. Some people change the location of where they're at on the planet. Again, this is it's part of the evolution, and it's part of the growth that is accelerated by getting in touch with this field that's around you. Um, so the chaos that we're moving through, once again, in between 3D and 4D, like we were mentioning earlier, it sort of speeds up that process. From what I like to say, what I usually say about fourth dimension is that it is, both of these orders are here already. They're here right now. And 4D is just waiting for us to unplug from 3D, plug into 4D, move into the offices and the homes and the jobs and the occupations and the roles that we're asked to do, which are vastly different from 3D. So part of this, for instance, in 3D, most of us are taught to work hard, and that we have to work hard and to make a living. Well, 4D, what if everything is given to you? What if everything that you like to do, that you really enjoy, will support you and all of your physical needs? That's a huge paradigm shift. Go ahead.
Yeah, and that would be referred to in the Christian tradition as the grace of God, right?
Yes,
And
correct.
we're the grace of God is when you're blessed with things that maybe you don't even deserve or that you didn't earn, right?
Correct.
And I want to add a quote from the poet Rumi, and he said, and I hope I get this right, be the candle spreading light till dawn.
Yes.
And we have to remember that people need your light. If you're listening to this broadcast, the world needs your light. And sometimes people get lost and they're not sure, why am I here? Or what am I here to do? Well, part of what I feel as a medical intuitive healer, you're here to discover your own light and share that light. And when you get in touch with your light, it's effortless. And if you think, a good visual is a lighthouse doesn't struggle. It doesn't move. It just stays centered and grounded and shines its light. And from that light, everyone else can find their own way, right?
Correct. Yes.
And
Provides
so,
safety, provides a way. Yes.
yes. And so when we awaken and activate our own human light, that is a blessing to ourselves and everyone around us.
Yes, very much so. Absolutely.
Now, Jason Hunt, once people activate their light body, their Merkaba, what do we do with it once we have awakened our light body? Now what?
This is a question I get a lot. People will say, okay, so now what, Jason? Well, again, being of service to Mother Earth and Father Sky, being calm, being that lighthouse in the midst of chaos for your friends and family. And eventually they will become lighthouses themselves. They'll sort of receive permission from you. Oh, wow, I can stand strong and tall in the midst of all this craziness. And no matter how it looks or appears out there, I can be calm and centered and grounded. They receive that permission usually subconsciously from your being. So as you were saying, shining our light, standing in our truth, and being who we are, just being on the planet is huge. We are human beings, after all, not human doings.
Yes, for sure. Now, once we awaken our light body, can we use our Merkaba for healing ourselves, others, or Mother Earth?
Yes. In fact, Mother Earth is calling for this,
Hmm.
this exact vibration, calling for awakened human beings to help each other, help themselves, and help heal Mother Earth. She doesn't need a whole lot of help. She could do it all without us. But she has humans, and she'd rather do it with us than without us. But it's up to us. It's our choice. So far, it looks like it's going pretty good. But to get to the healing of yourself, absolutely. Once again, you can heal anything in your Merkaba field simply by asking and connecting to your higher self, asking what it is that you're doing mentally, emotionally, or physically that's bringing you the illness. And once you figure that out and you change those behaviors, that illness will not come back. Now, healing other people is a little bit more involved. It involves permission. And what I've been taught is not just permission from their third dimensional self. Most people will say, oh, yeah, if they're in pain or suffering, yes, please help me. But also getting permission from their higher self. And this is where I usually personally get the no, don't help. They're creating this for their own benefit and they will heal themselves on their own. Again, as you were mentioning, Catherine, just being there is what my job is, so to speak, with other people, generally speaking. There are exceptions to this as well, especially if you're a mother or just a parent of prepubescent children. You're somewhat responsible for them, so you can step in to an extent with them. But again, the children that are coming in these days are such high vibrational beings. We're probably going to be following them rather than them leaning on us, so to speak. Um,
Now,
so go ahead.
now, Jason Hunt, are there difficulties that people encounter in activating their Merkaba?
Yes, there are. Fears will prevent somebody from activating their Merkaba. People hold themselves back for all sorts of different reasons. Um, I've known people who have been to the workshop with myself or other teachers and didn't activate the Merkaba, but then like on the flight home, they had a layover in some city and they're sitting in the airport for 4 or 5 hours and they activate their Merkaba there. Or it might be out on a fishing trip or when you're camping or something like that. Sometimes when we're in a workshop, we don't feel quite as comfortable. And as soon as you get home to your meditation space or your bedroom, activate your Merkaba, and it's no difficulty whatsoever. So it's different timing for different people. Um, just like I mentioned earlier, just about everybody on this planet has a mental, emotional, and physical body. There are beings in the universe that don't have their emotional body anymore. They cut off their emotional body. These are largely warrior races in the alien races, is what we would call them. But there are some humans who have tried to follow suit with that. So again, that is a little bit of a difficulty. You don't have the entire Merkaba field, so you can't really activate it. So in other words, there's two alien races, off-world races, specifically the Greys and the Reptilians, who have done this. They've separated themselves from God and they've cut off their emotional body, their love connection to God. They don't really understand what emotions and love are. And like I said, the Reptilians did this so they could become better warriors. Well, they really limited the area that they can move into, and they're ultimately trapped, is the only way that I can say it. Um, they're uh, again that's one of the limitations of having a Merkaba. I had a gentleman once who was in the military for a couple decades, and he was not sure that he still had his emotional body intact.
Hmm.
And he came to me with tears in his eyes saying, Jason, are you sure that I have my emotional? And I'm like, dude, yes, you do. Absolutely. So those are again, the doubts and the fears that tend to hold us back from activating our Merkaba.
So Jason Hunt, as we conclude, any final thoughts for our audience?
Just once again, be calm through these times of chaos. Keep your connection, your personal connection to spirit, and just being connected to Mother Earth and moving through these times will get us through gracefully and easily. We also have the benefit of being connected to Father Sky and ourselves with love. So, so we're going to be fine. Again, don't fear outward appearances. Just be here now. Be love now.
I love that. Be love now. What a beautiful message.
Thank you, Catherine.
You've been listening to the Natural Healing Show for UK Health Radio. I'm your host, Catherine Carrigan, medical intuitive healer, Amazon #1 bestselling author. You can find out more about me and my work at catherinecarrigan.com and unlimitedenergynow.com. We have been listening to the very unique and gifted Jason Hunt, meditation teacher. And you can find out more about Jason Hunt and his wonderful work at his website, waterprana.net. And remember, the world needs your light. Give yourself permission to shine your light everywhere, and you will uplift yourself and everyone around you. And when you shine your light, you will heal yourself naturally. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next time.